What's up, everybody? It is Callus here with Callus Invitational 5 Round 6 lower bracket content. I have had so much good help this year with not only very reliable full time narrators, but also a plethora of guest narrators that have been interested in chiming in that I really haven't had to do anywhere near as much narrating as I have in previous years, which, I mean, for those of you who prefer to hear me over those guys, I apologize, but from my end, being busy in real life, it's nice to not feel so overwhelmed. But yeah, as a consequence, it's been like over a week, pushing 2 weeks since I've had to actually narrate a game. So we have a couple things to catch up on. I promise I'll get into the series. This is a big match. We are very deep in the tour, but this has been an overall a record-shattering year in so many ways. The donations, we have eviscerated the record. We had 1,200 something last year, and we met that total before we even started the play-ins this year. To give you an idea of just how enthused people are about this tour, we are now over $2,000, which is insane. And the only stretch goal left to really beat, and I really, really want to beat this, and it's very doable. The highest paying side tour that I know of in Pokemon history is the Blunder Tour, in which he paid out $2,200. And we're at like 2036 right now. We're less than $170 away from being the all-time highest paying side tour that I'm aware of in competitive Pokemon history. So I really want to hit that mark. If you guys are able to donate at all, it really, really, really contributes to this in what has already been a record-shattering year. A couple other oddities this year. All four of the players in the winner's bracket final are from East Coast USA. What are the odds of that? Very unlikely coming into this tour, something we will probably never see again. And that brings us to this match, yet another record on the line. These are two first-time players who are both going to have at least a top 8 finish. One of them is going to have at least a top 6 finish, whoever wins here. But the record on the line, Endill has already broken the record. He is the best performing play-ins player we have ever had. Prior to this match, 2-2 is the best that any play-in player had ever done. Endill has already won 3 matches in this tournament, coming into this 3-1. Should he win this, obviously that streak will continue. The sky's the limit. Hell, maybe he goes on to win the tournament. What a story that would be. But either way, even if he were to lose here, it would be still the best a play-in player has ever done in CALLOUS Invitational history. That's obviously a huge accomplishment for him, and a top 8 finish in his CALLOUS Invitational debut is also really good. These are both first-time players, so for either guy, a top 8 or better finish the first time out is really good. And then, of course, we have Mickmer, also a first-time player, also still alive and in the top 8. So it really has been an amazing year. But deep in the tour, this is a big, big match, obviously. At this point, the money is very much in sight for these guys. Even a third place finish is worth over $400 in this tournament because of how big our donation pool is. So these guys have a lot to play for, and unfortunately, I think these guys are friends and test partners. This is a crappy pairing, but when you're this deep, it's just going to happen. So I talked your ear off way more than I usually do pregame. I apologize. I hope you guys found that information interesting. It's just been such an exciting year up to this point, and there's still loads more to come. But let's get into the match. It's a best of 3, and like I said, this is lower bracket. So the player who does not win here will be eliminated from the tour with a respectable but short of the money top 8 finish. Let's go. Johnnyg2 on the bottom, Endill on the top. T-Tower lead, shiny T-Tower lead, in fact, for both of them. And we have a Breloom switch and a Brick Break, respectively. 65%. That's a big boy Brick Break. And Johnny is going to allow the T-Tower to be the victim of the Spore. Zapdos in for Endill, and Celebi for Johnny. Neither one in love with the matchup. Very well maybe a Dug in the back for Endill. Johnny needs to be aware of that. Instead, it is Leech Seed and Drill Peck. Had he Baton Pass, that Leech Seed would have come with him. Here's a switch to Charizard on the Calm Mind. Probably not what Johnny was expecting to see. Zard we saw a good amount of in previous years, but it has been pretty absent this year. I don't think it's literally not been used. I recall a game or two with it, but it has really been close to extinct this year. And Endill bringing it back against his friend Johnnyg2. It's going to scare the Celebi out despite the fact that it had that boost, but neither one loves the matchup, and switching ensues. Porygon2 fails to break the substitute of what looks like an Endeavor Pert. That's terrible. That is such a weak Ice Beam. He's going to recover off the Hydro Pump damage, and now Endill's going to start fishing for a freeze. The Ice Beam damage is whatever. Like I said, fishing for the 10% freeze here. The 22% really doesn't matter. 2 attempts, nothing yet. And the follow-up Ice Beam is going to break the sub. I really can't believe the first one didn't. He's got to be something along the lines of max HP, max defense, with no investment at all into special attack. But even then, the Endeavor Pert is almost never bulky. It's probably itself max speed and max special attack. And Porygon2 has a decent base special attack stat, so I'm truly surprised. That must have been a really bad roll that he was unable to break the sub. But a cooperative roll here for Endill, able to kill Celebi despite the boost with Crunch plus Sand. So the first lead of the match does go to Endill. Interesting that Mence is going to switch out of the way here, representing that he does not have HP Grass on what you would think is a mixed Mence, right? Since he's got the Calm Mind Celebi that probably has Baton Pass. It strikes me as a CM Pass team, so I would think mixed Mence, but it could be mixed Mence without HP Grass. That does exist. Magneton, a weird choice here. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's physical Mence. All we've seen is Brick Break, but I mean, Magneton just doesn't really fit if it's a mixed Mence, so I guess I take it back. I guess we're looking at a physical Mence for Johnny, but the Magneton nevertheless feels like a weird choice here. Johnny's taken the lead. Endill had the early lead, but it's gone. He does tie it right back up after the Zard eats the Magneton. Johnny doesn't have a great switch to Charizard, especially if it does have Focus Punch and/or HP Grass for the Porygon2 and the Swampert respectively. Recover from Porygon2 just in case. Pert switches back in for Endill. Here's Sub once again. And Ice Beam does break it this time, so it was a roll. Salac Berry kicks in. Swampert is now way faster. Endeavor and Ice Beam respectively, and the roll cooperates. Swampert goes down, and the last poke of the match is revealed for Endill. Here's Jirachi. That's going to also sub up, and it's going to allow a recover, but I don't believe that the Porygon2 has any chance, even with a roll, to break the Rachi sub, and that's going to let him Calm Mind up on the switch as Pert returns. And he's got the HP Grass, which is going to devastate him for 93% at +1. Pert obviously not about to live another, and he's going to stay in and die. So Endill is going to again tie us up, now 3-3. Here comes the lefties gaining Mence that I think at this point is physical. And yes, he is Dragon Dance, but let's not miss the crucial piece of 20% Serene Grace hacks there, getting the very relevant paralysis. As it turns out, Mence doesn't even have Earthquake, and it looks like Endill is going to possibly clean this up with the Jirachi. There's Hidden Power, and that Earthquake will kill, so it leaves us in a 2-2. The players had said their GGs a minute ago, but apparently this game is not yet over. Zapdos trying to clean it up for Endill. Now Porygon2 against 2 flying types, but he does have Ice Beam, and maybe not. He has Thunderbolt. He's going to have Thunderbolt to beat the Zard, I think. He's going to start things off with a Thunder Wave on the Zapdos, which is good, and he's obviously going to have to recover here. And does. And he gets a full para, so decent start here for Porygon2. Johnny's going to need some cooperative RNG to get this done. Ice Beam and T-Bolt respectively, sure. Going to have to recover again. He's going to have to avoid crits and paras specifically. There's Recover and T-Bolt again. The Recover is outgaining the damage that the T-Bolt is doing, so it's a net positive for Johnny, but a para would be really bad if that were to kick in. Instead, it is Endill who's the victim of a full para, and now Johnny, free to Ice Beam, does exactly that, and Zapdos dies. Porygon2 very healthy here. This comes down to an unlikely 1v1 against 2 BL Pokemon for the game, Porygon2 and Charizard. Fire Blast and Thunder Wave respectively. Does the Porygon2 actually have Thunderbolt? Here's the tightening of the focus. And full power at a terrible time as Recover comes down. That Focus Punch would have done a lot. There's Ice Beam. He may be intentionally keeping him out of Blaze range, even if he does have Thunderbolt. Very high IQ play. If so, he's going to Ice Beam again and get a crit. Fire Blast there. Huge damage in Blaze range, but not enough. And Porygon 2, with or without Thunderbolt, is going to be able to clutch it here. He shows at the end that, in fact, he did have Thunderbolt, and he's going to take down the Zard. Johnny makes the improbable comeback in this game. Didn't look good for him in this late game scenario, but he's going to make the comeback and get up 1-0 on Endill, putting Endill, the most successful play-in player in CALLOUS Invitational history, one game away from ending his incredible run. Endill can, of course, send us to a Game 3 with a victory. Like I said, these are two first-time players, so either way, great finish one way or another. One of them's top 8, one of them's top 6 or better, but there can only be one. Let's get into Game 2 and see if Endill can force the third game or if his tournament ends here. We will switch the sides for continuity. Johnny on the bottom, Endill on the top. Different leads for both guys. Shiny Mence, Johnny likes his shinies, against a Zapdos respectively. Agility and Rock Slide, non-CB Rock Slide of note, so possibly a lead DD, which is a bit unusual. He's going to BP the Speed Boost and the Intimidate over to Swampert. Hydro Pump comes down. He's obviously going to be faster than his counterpart with the Agility Boost, but he's going to get out of the way and go to Celebi, and it's going to be a Whiffed Protect for Johnny. Salamence reappears. Intimidate once again, and there's Calm Mind for Endill. Hidden Power Flying with a one-hit KO. Oopsie fucking daisy. Endill going to be kicking himself for allowing that. Maybe that is a Choice Bander after all. And Endill loses his Celebi with nothing to show for it. Huge lead for Johnny after a boo-boo from Endill. Gotta be kicking himself for allowing that to happen. Now Brick Break comes down. Salamence is not gaining lefties, so maybe it is Choice Banded after all. It makes me question why the Rock Slide did so little to the Zapdos. That must be an extremely bulky Zapdos to take a Choice Banded Rock Slide that well. And the switch dance continues. Johnny showing some kind of balance or physical offense. Endill sticking pretty much to his usual, his Zapdos offense teams. Gengar coming in, and it's going to be a Whiff Toxic for Johnny. It's going to give Endill a chance to get a little momentum back, get a Will-O-Wisp off, or make a prediction, get an attack. Does just try for the boring old Will-O-Wisp. Pretty safe play. Johnny hasn't shown anything that wants to eat a Will-O-Wisp, and doesn't look like he has anything right now. Just going to let the Scarm get burned. In exchange, layer number 1 of Spikes comes down. Endill's last poke, I think, is Doug's, or I guess it could be Starmie, but doesn't look like he has a Rapid Spinner. It could be Starmie. I could see like an off-star if he wants to pass Calm Mind boost to that. But as of now, he's shown no way to remove those spikes. And it's interesting, he could have prevented the spikes all along with Taunt, and he simply chose not to. So that's really a head-scratcher. What's the point of Taunt Gar if you're not going to do things like prevent Skarmory from spiking up in your face? Don't know that I get that from Endill. Maybe he just doesn't give a fuck and he has a Rapid Spinner in the back, but that's a little peculiar. Either way, Johnny's still holding on to that early lead after the misstep from Endill, allowing his Celebi to be eaten by the CB Mence. Hidden Power and Ice Beam, respectively. That's going to come up short. Endill's Pert suffering from the Toxic Poison. And another Protect is going to make that poison problem even worse. 50-50 Protect, doesn't get it, and Ice Beam takes out the Magneton, sure, but at what cost? Johnny feels very ahead right now, not only with the 5-4 lead, but with the 2 layers of spikes down and the information advantage as well. I can't find any reason right now that Endill is winning this game, and he's going to have to make a hell of a comeback in order to not be eliminated from this tournament. Blissey gets revealed for Johnny. This is an Asta-esque offensive or balanced team. I view it as balanced, but whatever you want. And he's going to go for S-Toss here against the reappearing Tyranitar from Endill, which is not gaining lefties. Focus Punch here. Crit would be wonderful for Endill, but he doesn't find it. He's going to come up well short of killing the CB Mence. Doubles back to Pert anyway. And that finds itself against the weakened Zapdos for Endill. It's at just 8% right now. Protect is going to allow the agility for Endill. He predicted that perfectly, so Johnny does not make the aggressive play and gets punished for it. Here's the Bliss. Hidden Power trying to take out the Pert. Obviously not allowed. Blissy's going to laugh at that 8%. And now here's the BP to T-Tar. As if it wasn't already faster than Blissey, it's now way, way, way faster than Blissey, but it's also at just 14% and needs to get this right. Goes straight for the rock slide. Skarm comes in, going to fodder itself here. Can't survive against the faster thanks to agility T-Tar. And we've got ourselves a, air quotes, tie at 4-4. But Johnny is way ahead, given both the T-Tar and the Zapdos on their deathbed. The spike's down. There's just no reason to think that Endill is winning this game, and Johnny does, in fact, retake the lead via the Surf on the T-Tar. We have seen Rachi miracles so many times in this tour, and Endill is going to fish for one yet again. He's going to wish upon the Jirachi star and try to get there. We've got ourselves a 3-3, keeping in mind that the Zapdos is very low and the Mence is on the low side as well. And now we have what we know to be a Wow Taunt Gengar burning Blissey here. Endill in real time dipping down to 15 seconds, 2 turns in a row on the timer. Got to be scary for him. He's thinking out his plays, which is great, but he's going to have to start playing faster. He will lose to timeout and be eliminated from this tournament. That would be terrible. And a bad crit kicking in against Endill as well. Blissey with the Ice Beam there. That crit could matter. Jirachi coming in at this point. Ice Beam again for Johnny. Blissey low and burnt, but freed from the taunt now. And Substitute coming down. Soft-boiled, of course, from Bliss. That crit really stinks for Endill. He otherwise was in a good place to deal with the Bliss. The Bliss is now going to be difficult for this Jirachi to deal with, but certainly far from impossible. He's got a Combine. He's behind a sub. That's a real good start. Earthquake, obviously, gonna pop it. And there is the T-Bolt kill, so Endill has taken the lead in this game, but can he deal with this full health T-Tar? I think, unfortunately, probably not, but it is a good start for him to get the Zapdos in on the Earthquake. Maybe he can make something happen. There's the BP. He's going to now sneak Gengar in. It's going to barely survive after sand damage at 1%, but nothing going right for Endill. He misses the 75-25 Will-O-Wisp. Very well may be relevant if it's a non-Lum Tar. Thunderbolt, Hidden Power. If he sees lefties here, he's gonna be upset because the Will-O-Wisp miss obviously relevant if so. And indeed, Johnny has lefties. That is rough for Endill. Earthquake is gonna end the game and the match. And Johnnyg2 with a clean 2-0 over Endill is going to eliminate him and stop that record from progressing further. Endill with a great run in his first CALLOUS Invitational, top 8 finish, totally respectable, deserves a lot of credit, especially having come from play-ins, and like I said, he sets a record along the way. He has the most wins of any play-in player in the history of CALLOUS Invitational with his 3-2 record and his top 8 finish, and he deserves a lot of credit for that. This game felt very winnable for Endill. A couple of unlucky hacks at the end. The Ice Beam crit mattered, and the Will-O-Wisp, the 75-25 Will-O-Wisp miss there really mattered. The Rachi had a decent shot to beat the T-Tar, had the T-Tar been burnt there. So definitely some relevant nonsense. It very well could have gone to a Game 3 here, but I don't want to say that hacks decided the series because I thought Game 1 was relatively clean. And even if Endill had won this game, who knows what could have or would have happened in a theoretical Game 3. It's hard to say. Nevertheless, the result is what counts. Johnny G, the first timer, is guaranteed at least a top 6 finish, and who knows what the ceiling could be. The sky's the limit. Hell, maybe he goes on to win the whole tour. But for Endill, great run, respectable run. Certainly if there's a CALLOUS Invitational 6, unless things go horribly wrong for him between now and then, he's just going to be straight in the main event instead of having to go through play-ins again. But his tournament nevertheless ends here with a top 8 finish. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Now that we're getting down to the real nitty-gritty of the tour and there are far fewer matches to narrate, you're going to be hearing from me quite a bit more as opposed to my staff. I hope you guys have enjoyed the tournament as a whole so far, and like I said, not to be pushy, but I really want to break that 2,200 mark and set the all-time record. So if you guys are able to contribute via donation, that is very much appreciated. We are accepting them all the way until the tournament is over. Alrighty, thank you for watching. Thumbs up if you liked it, and I will see you guys in the next video.